I'm Bob Beckel. I'm proud to be a liberal. I believe that health care is a right, not a privilege.
Hi, I'm Cal Thomas, a conservative who is pro-life. And this is Common Ground. Welcome to Common Ground, a video version of Bob Beckel's and my bi-weekly USA Today column in which we try to figure out how to bridge Washington's partisan divide. Today's subject, the nomination of Judge Sotomayor to be an Associate Justice on the Supreme Court. Now, Bob, you and I have been around this town long enough to know that there are many factors that go into the selection of a judge. But when Judge Sotomayor says that a wise Latina woman is better able to judge certain cases than, say, a white male, you know that if those words had come out of the mouth of a white male with respect to a Hispanic or an African American, they'd not only be toast, their nomination would be withdrawn.
Well, Cal, we're trying to be politically correct here. You have to understand that. Now, there's one nice thing about being a liberal. I don't have to be politically correct. I can say what I want to say. You, on the other hand, have got to be careful what you say. Yes, she said that, and it probably was not the best use of words, but look, I think the idea that Obama said when he wanted to pick somebody that had a feeling for the community, and she certainly does, the biggest, fastest growing demographic in the country, so more power to her and to him.
Don't you think that that was a major factor in this? I mean, as Shelby Steele wrote in Monday's Wall Street Journal, this is supposed to be a post-racialist president. So right out of the box, his first pick is a Latina woman. How is that post-racialist?
You know what? I will bet you that Clarence Thomas was right on top of the list of the world's best jurists. It had nothing to do with the fact that he was black.
They
right?
both sides play the game.
Look, here's the more important thing about the game, and this is where it changed. And it really changed. My side has to take some responsibility for this. Bob Bork, 1988. He didn't get beaten on something about his background or some scandal. It was basically his judicial philosophy. You remember Ted Kennedy went out and gave that famous in Bob Bork's America?
Yep.
Now, as I think back on that, that was sort of the break point where a president's choice was not given what they ought to be given, which is a presidential, he won the election, you ought to be able to pick who he wants, assuming that they're clean. It got to be political philosophy, and I think that's where we went off. And since then, everybody's been getting into the political philosophy, and I don't get it, except that a lot of people are making money on it.
Well, that's true. But the reason they get into the political philosophy is that in modern times, as you say, since Bork, but really going back to the Nixon era with two guys named Hainsworth and Carswell who were beaten up pretty bad by the Democrat side, it's a matter of interpreting the Constitution. And this is the big debate. President Obama believes in a living Constitution that needs to be fitted with the times. We conservatives believe in a Constitution that says what it means and means what it says. And that is the big debate that has been going on for years. But I agree with your point. And your point is that both sides, left and right, seek to raise their visibility and a lot of money by trying to smear whoever a Republican or Democratic candidate nominates.
Well, let me just remind you of something. The conservatives lost the election. There's something about the spoils of an election we've got to keep in mind here. Of course, Barack Obama was going to nominate a progressive to the bench. I mean, are you kidding me? What do you think he was going to do? He's going to go find one of your friends and put him on the bench? It doesn't work that way. He won the election. People expect it. But let's get back to this money thing. There are groups in Washington, and I've been here 30 years, there are groups in Washington that have been created just to get after Supreme Court judges or federal judges, and as soon as one's announced, what happens? They send out a fundraising appeal saying, this person's going to destroy America, send me $25.
Yeah.
And then once it's over, they go away, I guess on vacation to Mexico, and then come back when the next court appointments made.
Well, you and I have come up with an idea, and the more we think about it, I think the more we like it, and that is term limits for federal judges. I think limiting terms for public servants is a good idea. It lessens the chances of corruption. It reduces the chances that you may have nominated and put on the court the wrong person who look good at the beginning, but once they've been in office for a while, really looks bad. And I think this would not only lower the tension a lot, but would also lower the rhetoric.
By the way, what's that line you use about term limits for Congress?
Yeah, we ought to recycle trash in Congress for the same reason, because each left in one place too long begins to emit a foul smell. Thank you.
I love that. Well, let me tell you, one of the other reasons I like the term limits is the biggest argument that these sides, whether it's left or right, bring up against federal judges is they're there for life.
Yeah.
Once they're there, there's nothing we can do about it. Well, the 14-year term means that they have to get out at 14, but as we suggested in the column, you can then go ask to be reappointed. And if the president in the White House at that point happens to be of your political persuasion, you'll probably get reappointed. But you have to go through the Senate hearings, and you have to go before the United States Senate, which will be probably after 14 years, a lot of new senators in there. I think that's a good idea. It clears away a lot of dead weight. And the other thing is, some of these judges, I mean, they take them out of here. It's like, you know, there's this place called Leisure World. I call it Seizure World. These older people, the courts, some of these guys don't leave there except in a casket. I mean, you can't be 98 years old and be thinking you're giving yourself the right kind of judgment or have the same judgment when you're appointed. So I think 14 years is a good idea. That common ground?
I think so.
You know something? I'll tell you, it was easy this week. Hey, check out our column in the paper and on USA Today's opinion blog at usatoday.com. Thanks for tuning in, and come back again in 2 weeks for the next installment of Common Ground.